Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to the channel. Well, today we're talking about Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 4, entitled Watcher. Interesting episode. We're sort of getting into the groove here of life in the 21st century. Not as necessarily intriguing as some of the first three episodes of the season, but still a solid episode. We had Raffi and Seven trying to track down Rios after he's been detained by ICE officers and is off in a detention centre. We've got Picard and Jurati working on finding the Watcher, and Picard having some more flashbacks at the chateau there. And we've got Picard catching up in 21st century with Guinan, but not Whoopi Goldberg. So let's take a look through this week's episode and see what it had to offer. So the pace in this week's episode probably wasn't as captivating as past episodes if it wasn't for that car chase with Raffi and Seven stealing the police car and doing a few burnouts and so forth whilst being pursued by the cops in LA. It would have kind of been a bit more of a talky kind of episode. But we still had some engaging scenes. We've got Seven and Raffi playing detective as they kind of try to work out where Rios has ended up and end up hacking into a computer, into a police car to try to locate his whereabouts. It's kind of good their communications and transportation is limited in terms of there being, no relays in orbit. So obviously with the Earth, you've got, France on one side and the US on the other. And obviously in the 24th century, you'd have a relay station that transmits communications and transmits transport signals and all that sort of thing from one side to the other. But obviously they're just stuck at the ship. They haven't got any means of bouncing the signal to the other side of the planet. So that obviously hampers communications and the ability to transport, which I think is good because scientifically speaking, I think it would seem odd that they would be able to do that. Much like if you went back in time to, the 19th century to suddenly pick up your cell phone and start using it. You obviously can't use it without, cell towers. It doesn't work that way. And it's obviously a similar kind of case with transporters here. Last week I talked about a lot of Star Trek 4 Voyage Home references that we had in that episode last week, and we've got another one in this episode. I think that was great to see Seven and Raffi on the bus. We've got the punk guy with the ghetto blaster, which is an absolute direct carbon copy of the scene from Star Trek 4 with the similar punk guy with the ghetto blaster on the bus, and Spock shuts him up by giving the Vulcan nerve pinch and everything. But yes, in this case, Seven just had to ask nicely, and he turned the music off, so there wasn't any violence or anything or incapacitation required. Even the song the guy is listening to is exactly the same track from Star Trek 4.
I still hate you and wait to rain you.
But if this is truly 2024, shouldn't this guy have been listening to his music on like a Bluetooth speaker from an iPhone? Now in this episode we get Picard and Jurati using the coordinates to locate the Watcher, and Picard ends up beaming into the 10 Forward Avenue bar location where he visited Guinan in the very first episode of this season. And I thought, oh fantastic, we're gonna get Guinan again as a young Guinan in the bar, and in he goes, and it's like, who the hell is this chick? That's not Guinan. She doesn't recognise him, has no idea who he is. And I'm thinking, hello, doesn't anybody remember Time's Arrow? Part 1 and 2? The season finale and season premiere double part episode where the Enterprise crew goes back in time to the 19th century and they meet Guinan as a young woman and there's a whole interaction.
Do you know me?
Very well.
Do I know you?
Not yet. But you will.
I was automatically expecting them to, recognise each other because of that previous episode. But I also thought, surely we're going to get a young Whoopi Goldberg because we've seen Whoopi Goldberg in that Time's Arrow episode playing herself as a younger person. And considering they did a de-aged Q on the first episode when he first appeared to Picard, they used deepfake technology or whatever to de-age John Delancey to make him look young. And I thought, oh, great, that we're going to get the same thing with Whoopi Goldberg. But no, we got some other chick playing Guinan. which seemed like a bit of a misstep to me, because I think, considering the amazing work that's been done on Book of Boba Fett, with Mark Hamill being de-aged as a very young 1983 version of himself to play Luke Skywalker in the Book of Boba Fett, amazing, photorealistic work that they did on that show. We've had plenty of Marvel films and Star Wars films and stuff where we've had, characters brought back to life or characters de-aged and everything to great effect. So I was kind of expecting the same thing in this episode, to be honest. I thought we were going to get Whoopi Goldberg, maybe the young chick who ended up playing her could have done the body capture stuff, and then they just used deep fake stuff to replace her face with her younger 1985 version of Whoopi Goldberg, and then just get present day Whoopi Goldberg to revoice the lines of dialogue. Not that hard, it's completely possible. Expensive, but possible. And that was kind of what I was kind of thinking was going to happen in this episode. So that was the first disappointment. The second disappointment is that the writers and producers didn't seem to remember the whole of what went down in the Time's Arrow double-part episode, where Guinan and Picard met in the 19th century Earth when they travelled back in time. There was a whole thing that went on with Samuel Clemens and Mark Twain and everything, with Data losing his head, getting blown off in a cave and everything, trying to help the 19th century from these aliens that were, stealing people's souls or something. Surely Guinan should recognise Picard, because they would have met, 140 years ago when she was on Earth, hanging out with Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens and everything. That seemed like a bit of an odd misstep to me as well. I kind of expected there would be some kind of recognition to having bumped into each other in the past. And I realise that obviously the producers don't want to limit the storytelling of Star Trek Picard to just hardcore Star Trek fans that remember every single episode. But considering this was a pretty kind of big double-part episode, it was a season finale and season premiere, double-parted cliffhanger, I think they could have done something to acknowledge the fact that they had bumped into each other in the past before.
I'll see you in 500 years, Picard.
And I'll see you in a few minutes.
I think the dynamic between Seven and Raffi was quite interesting in this episode. Obviously, there's a year and a half that's gone by since the end of season 1, but before we get to season 2, where we kind of, they sort of had a bit of a relationship or whatever, which we never sort of saw. But you kind of, the dynamic between the two of them hanging out the bus, stealing police cars together, bickering as, Seven drives and, Raffi navigates. There's an interesting kind of odd couple dynamic between these two. It made for some interesting scenes. And then that worked kind of well against, Rios in the detention centre, a little bit more character development with him and Dr. Teresa and everything. I'm interested to see where the dynamic between Rios and Teresa is going to end up, because obviously she's the Dr. Gillian Taylor kind of equivalent in this show. Once Rios gets off the bus and everything and he gets rescued, that I would be surprised if she just vanishes and we never see her again. Clearly she's going to help our heroes along their journey somehow in some capacity. So I'm interested to see how that relationship develops between her and Rios, and what use they can put her to help her achieve their goals. And the stuff with the Borg Queen and Jurati and everything, there's a bit of psychological warfare going on between these two. You can see that there's a bit of cunning back and forth going on where Jurati's extracting stuff from her and isn't necessarily owning up to her end of the bargain. And I think this is going to, maybe come back to bite her a bit more towards the end of the season as well. Now, initially we did think that Guinan was going to be the Watcher. It seemed like a logical turn of events. But that isn't the case. We've got some strange alien species who has the ability to possess humans as they move from one human to the next while they're talking to Picard with the white eyes and everything. But then the Watcher turns out to be Laris, but not Laris, Romulan Laris, Laris that has human ears and is human. It's like, what? It's like, hang on. This doesn't make sense. What's going on here? This is just too weird. I guess we're going to find out in next week's episode as to what the hell's going on here. But the fact that we've got a version of Laris that isn't Romulan, is human and is sort of alien again, because they're obviously, got alien technology and they're observing life in the 21st century, and yeah, there's weird things going on here with this story aspect, and I hope it is explained adequately next week, because at the moment it's sort of seeming a bit like, hang on, what the hell's going on here? Now the episode ended with Q looking at a newspaper in 2024 talking about this Europa mission. If I'm not mistaken, I think the way that he changes the past, it seems like he's trying to influence scientists who are involved in this Europa mission to abandon it. Obviously, this Europa mission is a moment in human history that probably buoys the spirits of mankind, and everybody stops fighting and bands together to explore space. But I guess if they all abandon this project, everything goes bad, then that's how they end up becoming the Confederation. And clearly something is seriously wrong with Q, because it appears his usual powers are on the fritz, as his finger click at the end does not work. All in all, guys, I didn't mind this episode at all. I thought it was quite entertaining. Probably not my favourite episode of the season so far. I think if it probably wasn't for the car chase scenes between Raffi and Seven, it probably would have been a bit more of a Talking Heads kind of episode. But obviously we got a little bit of action in there with the Seven and Raffi fighting as they kind of navigated LA and tried to drive and all that sort of thing, which was entertaining. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about the whole Guinan dynamic. Do you think Guinan should have recognised Picard before from their interactions they had in the Times Arrow episodes? Do you think Guinan should have been played by Whoopi Goldberg, de-aged with deep fake technology to get her looking like, you know, a 1980s version of Whoopi Goldberg, rather than recasting the role with a younger actor? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And guys, please leave a super thanks if you're able to. It really helps the channel out. Like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and check out my merch in the merch store. We can pick up t-shirts like this one. Always, you know, good prices and, you know, free shipping and discounts and stuff going on and everything, and always doing new designs. So be sure to check those out. And I'll catch you guys very soon for my next video. I'll see you soon.